Okay, and so let's just start by all introducing ourselves, if that's all right. Yeah. Just saying name, age, and occupation. If you're happy to share ages.
Age.
Yeah. So
okay.
start with you, Pete, and go around.
Yeah, no worries. My name's Pete Stone, but everyone calls me Sovereign Pete. That's a nickname that was given to me by someone a few years ago. Now, a lot of people think I'm in my 40s, but I'm actually 53. So there you go, everybody. Now you know how old I am. But I'll take it if you think I'm in my 40s. Not a problem. So that's healthy eating. So yeah, I mean, occupation. I'm actually an engineer, and I was actually developing my own supercar before 2020 happened. I'd saved up the money. I was doing this on my own. Got my own little workshop, that sort of stuff. Building it up. 2020 happened. Whole world got tipped upside down. And a whole load of people were panicking over mandates, all this sort of stuff. And I thought, these people need help. I decided to take my life savings, stop doing the car. I've given up on that dream now. I set up the Sovereign Project to educate people how contracts work and especially mandates. That's how it all started. And it's just taken off. We've got so many members now. I wasn't expecting any of this. In fact, when I set up to do this, I had no idea that I'd actually be interviewed by Sky News. No idea at all. So
it happens to everyone eventually.
Yes.
Go around. We'll talk about 2020 as well. That's really interesting. It's been before. And just to get, so I'm Tom. To be fair, I'm 37. So again, I'm the correspondent at Sky. Just everyone's in it. Keep going around the room.
I'm Ozana. People think I'm 37, but I'm also 52. I'm the founder of Be You Be Free, and that's a movement to be yourself, to be totally free.
And what's your surname, sorry?
Ozana Juska.
Great, I'm Carl, I'm 44 and I'm a property investor. I've been with the Sovereign Project about a year and a half, and currently right now for the Sovereign Project I run our social media channels, and I'm also the coordinator for our workshops and chess clubs. Where we set up live face-to-face workshops where people can come and learn the information that we share.
And so Carl, your surname as well, just for
Deans.
Deans, great.
I'm Graham Cox, and I'm kind of retired, but I do illustration cartoon work, and I've got a separate business as well, and got involved with Pete probably 5 years ago, and it's been a fantastic journey ever since in terms of understanding, or taking 10 years to just misunderstand and destroy everything that I'd learned in the past. I've got a PhD, got degrees, and all of that. I realise now most of it is unfounded, most of it is wrong, and just a bit embarrassed the fact that I spent so many years in the matrix believing it, and now I'm spending the last 10 years relearning or understanding what's really happening, which is exciting as hell, but it's a bit scary.
Great.
My name is David John Hopgood. I'm a craftsman, also had a spate in the investment banking environment on risk management and controls. I'm, did I say my age? 61? And about 10 years ago I came across this man, as you do, on the research on the internet, and boy, did the gates and doors open. And obviously what happened in these last 5 years just accentuated the study and the awakening.
Tom, can I get another introduction from our second to last chancellor?
Yeah, and I was going to say, actually, could we mind just hiding the mic cable a little bit?
Say yes, sorry?
Hiding the mic cable on his...
Oh, sorry, yes. Yeah, I can see that.
It's the black devil way, I just...
Yeah, that's great. Good spot. Absolutely, you can't get stuff like that now, can you?
Right, I'll do it again. Sorry about that.
I'll give you something a bit. If you don't mind, that's lovely, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, so just one more time.
Yeah, so Graham Cox, or Dr. Graham Cox, as I was, I suppose, got a PhD, which doesn't seem to mean much nowadays. Met Pete about 5 years ago, and spent about 10 years just getting rid of all the things that I'd learned in the past, because most of it was wrong, inaccurate, and just relearning. It's been a fantastic journey, really exciting journey, where relearning truths and spending probably more time than I spent on my PhD learning about nutrition, about law, legal, about how the world really works, about money and everything. and it's been a roller coaster ride, real fun, but it's great to be here.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, really appreciate that. Yeah, let's start here with you. And in a paragraph, if it's possible, what is the Sovereign Project? What's it about?
Sovereign, oh right, yeah. So I set this up. Mainly, I set up a website, and I put all the information that I'd studied. I've been studying the system for about 30 years since I got onto the internet. Got my first computer, 1992. Got on the internet, started studying. 2020 happened. A lot of people were panicking, and I thought I've got to share the information that I know with other people. So I set up the Sovereign Project website. I put a whole load of free information on there, how contracts work, how courts work, warrants, all this sort of stuff. And it was really set up because at that time in my life, I thought, I'm the only sovereign person that I know. And I thought, I wonder if there's anyone else on this planet that's actually sovereign. So it was like reaching out to other people. So basically, I was reaching out to others who are already sovereign.
What does sovereign mean?
Sovereign. Now, the word sovereign means having supreme authority over your life. So to be sovereign means you are a responsible person. So you have the ability to control your life. You can make your own decisions. You don't need someone higher up than you, like a mummy or a daddy, telling you what to do. That's all it means. No one has a higher authority than you. You can't be told what to do. You can interact with other people, sovereigns, through contract and agreements, not a problem. And both men and women are equally sovereign, okay? And you can only have rights and freedom if you are sovereign. Everything else that people think they have is just privileges and allowances. And we can get into that if we have time.
Yeah, for the rest of you, how did you come into the world? You know, I don't know who wants to go on it, but how do you get involved?
Well, with me, it was my mum, probably about 12 years ago, who was suffering with cancer. And so being in the medical side, I sort of deep dived into how can we help mum. And of course, that sort of uncovered some real truths about proper medicine versus the prescription allopathic medicine, which is prescribed. And so we actually ended up getting illegal medicine from America, medical grade. And mum went off about 9 medications in a hospice to being mum again, around the kitchen, cooking and being mum again. And we had her for about another year. I think it was probably too far gone to reverse it completely. But that really then opened my eyes to saying, well, when I spoke to the oncologist, the senior registrar, and said, you know, you can see that mum's doing well. And he said, yeah, really good. Keep doing what you're doing. He said, well, you know what we are doing. He said, I don't want to know. And that immediately said, well, hang on a minute. Your pledge is to do no harm, is to help these people. There's people walking up and down the corridors with, these chemicals going into them, and they're all not going to do very well. He knows that, I know that, and I'm saying, well, why wouldn't you think about this other stuff? And he said, I'm not even allowed to say it. If I'm caught saying it in the corridor, if someone overhears me say the word, begins with C, or type it or mention it or anything, I'm finished. And I want to get my consultant's job because I've got a mortgage. So he basically gave it to me as flat as he could, as honest as he could, to say, I'm caught in the trap, I can't get out of it, I want to get out of it, but I can't because I've got a mortgage and kids, and people will basically I'll never get another job. So that was really the start for me, to say, well, if they're lying about medicine, what else are they lying about? And that's really, got on to the next thing. I mean, I left my job under a bit of a cloud because I uncovered stuff. I was in pharmaceuticals. I uncovered stuff which didn't sit well with me. It was amoral. Realised that it was money over people. And so I left, took an early retirement. And so these things accumulate and you think, what else is wrong? So then, it was wonderful, maybe synchronicity, meeting Pete and also Peter Wilson and lots of others that are out there doing great jobs and uncovering all sorts of other things, like money. The medical side I was big into that. And as I said in the start, doing probably thousands of hours of investigation, books and videos and podcasts, just getting to the real truth. And you can't see it immediately. There's a veneer over the mainstream which is controlled. And so getting underneath that takes time and effort. But if you've got the time and effort, and I'm lucky to have the time, which I appreciate people haven't, you can really unearth a lot of stuff which it's like a truth bomb every day. and it's really exciting. But my God, is it, you know, it's a roller coaster ride. Say, so that's a lie. So that's a lie. So germ theory, that's been disproven. Germs, viruses, all that. And you look at it and you think, well, I've got a medical background. And with all of that coming true, you say, it's a different way of joining the dots, which makes much more sense than I've always been indoctrinated to believe. So, yeah, so it just keeps going and going, and I'm learning more and more every day.
Excellent. Yeah, my introduction to Sovereign Projects was probably about a year and a half ago. I was building a 4-bed house. And part of that building that property, there's obviously you've got to submit planning permission, etc., etc. And the council turned around to me and said, "There's a thing called a seal tax." I'm like, "Right, okay, what's a seal tax?" And said, "Well, if you're going to build a house and then sell it within 3 years, you've got to pay more tax." So my seal tax was £64,000. So I put it into bill costs. 2 weeks before we're about to submit planning application form, my project manager turned around to me and said, "Right, your seal tax is now increased from £64,000 to £80,000." So I was a bit annoyed by that, but I put it into my bill costs. Didn't think nothing of it. And then once we submitted our planning application form, my project manager said, "Look, I've been speaking to the planning officer, and your seal tax has now changed from £64,000 to £115,000. And that's when I spat my dummy out. And I started saying, right, who's got the authority? What councillor, what planning officer has got the authority to go from 64,000 to 115, almost double the taxation on that? So that's when I started to kind of really investigate property development and titles. And after going through about 5 or 6 different solicitors, I kind of started to work out from the information they're giving me that jurisdiction was a thing. So I'm thinking, what's jurisdiction? How do I know what jurisdiction I'm going into? And that's when I come across a Richard Voves video where Pete was on there talking about the allodial titles, which is true ownership of land and property. So I'm thinking, true ownership? Well, I own the land. I've paid off the mortgage. Well, I own this land. Well, actually, you don't. Because when you register anything, especially lands, you register with land registry. So people think that real estate is property. Well, it's not real estate, it's land. So when you start looking at the legal system, which is mainly Latin, real estate means royal status. So you're registering on royal status. So the way I describe it to my friends is my arm is the soil and the bricks and mortar sits on the soil. But actually what happens is you have the soil, a piece of paper comes in, and then your house is put on the piece of paper because you're registering on their status. So you don't have true ownership of land. So once I started to understand the allodial title and what that really means, I quickly worked out that everything that we own, or everything that we think we own in terms of property, we don't actually own. And that's when I come into the Sovereign Project to understand more.
My story is very different. January 2019, I split up from my partner after 12 years together, and the pain was too big. The suffering of him going to 5 nights a week, spend time with other women and giving them what I wanted from him, put me into a position of crying and confusion and not knowing what to do. I had a son, 9 years old at the time, living in London. I'm from Romania. And my business, I used to do business and consulting and quite brainy, logical work, didn't work. So no clients at all. And I was like, no savings, no money in the bank, no income. What do I do? Do I go back to Romania? But Romania costs money too. And that's when I reached out to some of my clients, 2 in particular. I worked with like 60,000 entrepreneurs over time, including a lot of counselors and therapists and coaches. And 2 of them had something different to everybody else, like a spark. So I went through all their programs and private coaching from them. And I started breathing, like logical mind, and you start breathing and you change your life with the breathing. It didn't make sense at the time, but I was in desperation, so I did what they asked me to do. And that's how I turned my life within 3 months, really. So by the end of the year, I bought a property where I live now with my son, and I became financially free. Just like this, because I changed something within me. So by changing something within me, I was like, oh, there is something else to the life, not just what we see and hear and understand. So I started looking more into it, and I started the spiritual journey, which I was dismissing because I thought these are like lunatics not knowing what they're doing, failure in their life, and then they do something that nobody understands. So I started to understand and work with and then I created this movement with one of these two ladies, and within a year we launched 50 programs online, all full, only through lives. But the live started, the thing with the live started with one live. That was pandemic, lockdown. Right after Brexit, I wanted to go to Romania with my partner and my son. I had some business interests, and I also wanted to ski. At the airport, they stopped us from boarding because my partner had a British passport. So I could go with my Romanian passport, but my partner couldn't. And I asked them, so what is it? And they said, oh, it's the embassy, call the embassy. So I called. It happened that I knew someone at the embassy, and they said, no, there is no problem, nothing to do with Brexit. So then they said, oh, it's the airline. It happened to know that I knew the owner of that airline. It's a Romanian private airline. And they said, no, it's their police, frontier police. I'm like, so why did they blame the operations in Romania, that and that? Didn't make any sense. And we couldn't fly. Well, I could fly with my son, but we decided to come back because he couldn't get out of the country. And that's when I started questioning, like, what is going on? And that video, I posted on Facebook, my experience, and it reached 2,500,000 views. It just went viral. Loads of comments, loads of people, and a lot of people were putting the information, like this kind of information. I had no idea of the world. And that opened my eyes, and then I started watching few people, and then from that I saw one of the videos that Pete was interviewed, and his course was interesting, and I was like, yeah, okay, I want to get out of the metrics, and the Sovereign Projects for me is helping me with the legal and logical side of the metrics, the contractual side of it. And for me, the sovereignty means getting out of the mind constraints, getting out of the emotional constraints, and getting to the soul, and bringing harmony between the body, the mind, the emotions, the soul, and the spirit. And that's what I do. And that's why I'm here, because in addition to what Pete does, I want people to understand that they are much more than what they believe they are, and the power is within them. And they just need to understand a few things and change a few things within.
Thank you.
And that's how we change the world.
And then how did you?
I don't know which way to come in on this one, but one of the awakening calls for me was I was working abroad, Hong Kong. I was out there for about 16 years, and I could see that there were potential problems. We knew that there were geopolitical problems around, and our worry was that China was going to roll in on Hong Kong and the problems that were occurring there. And I'll give you this example. So we have a situation where those of us that could actually log on using a VPN and see what the BBC or Sky News would produce domestically, and those same stations broadcasting globally, we could see there was a slight difference. Cut long story short again, we could see that there was further upheaval. Obviously, handback had happened in 98, 99, and everything was looking good, and the Chinese were going to adhere to looking after Hong Kong for 50 years, and it will keep it running as it was under, how can you put it, colonial rule. Everything's running smoothly. Obviously, at the time when I was working for the bank, we had a lot of people out there who were demonstrating, a lot of the youngsters. And it was quite interesting that at the weekends there were major, in fact, a quarter of the population practically at some time were on the streets demonstrating that they wanted democracy, and they were fearing the problems that were occurring. And we thought, yeah, that's good. You know, they want democracy, they want their freedom. But so you're thinking, hang on a moment, they were under colonial rule, and they're there marching up and down with our British flags. And don't get me wrong, I'm fiercely patriotic. And being fiercely patriotic, also I'm a true Englishman, and I prefer, and how can I put this? I would like to have a good, fair perspective and no injustice out there. cut long story short, I'll shorten this down. Trouble started to brew, and we could see the youngsters now camping out on the streets in little tents, and it looked all great. And there was President Obama at the time being portrayed on the sides of the buildings, and it looking great, giving the support to the protesters, all these youngsters. And I cut long story short again. I was in a workshop because I'm a craftsman at heart, and because I was on an island on my own in a workshop in a not a normal area for what we call guaylos, Western people to be working. So the local chief of police came and visited me. Now my father was an ex-policeman, or was a policeman, and so I knew how to turn the tide, turn the psychology of the conversation, because it's quite, you're working away, I'm actually making a staircase for somebody. I'm happy. Chief of police coming, local, thinking, well, hang on, this is going to be tough. Anyway, managed to actually befriend him, and he was showing me at the end of the conversation film footage of young Americans agitating and supporting the potential problem and the demonstrations. I'm going to cut long story short again. One of our friends on one of the islands, young family, decent family, their young son had only just gone to university, was arrested and found with $100,000 US in his back pocket. Bingo, time to get out of Hong Kong. So you could see the agitation that was going on. So we knew there was something wrong. And obviously I flew back into 2019 and things started to start kicking off. And those of us in the know knew that there's something chronically wrong with the financial system and how it works. And I've got lots of stories to go down on that, but I'll keep it short and sweet. So back in 2019, seeing how the world is unfolding, and then I just saw totally justice of what was unrolling. And the beauty about the Sovereign Project, and the reason why it's not only a spiritual thing, but it's also a learning. Knowledge is the key. And this is what Pete's bringing to the table with all of us. The power is within every man and woman of this country to actually take control of our lives and stop the trickery that's out there. And there's centuries of it. Once you start digging down, looking at your history, and start unpeeling the onion of the complexity of how things have actually portrayed within our society, is frightening in a way once you start to unpeel it. And I believe, and I firmly believe, it is the true British Englishman, I'm going to say this, and woman, of this country has the power to unlock this madness that's happening in the West. We've got the Magna Carta, we've got all these things, all these checks and balances. We just need to wake up. Go down to Parliament and say, time to dismiss you. You're not fit for purpose. And this is the rules and statutes and legislation that you're supposed to be adhering to. And oh, by the way, why are you a corporation?
Thank you. We'll get back to that because that's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's really, really well explained, and everyone's obviously got a different sort of journey into it. And the philosophy is really well explained, Pete, as well. What does it mean in terms of activity? So, you've got that sort of doing, but what do you guys actually do, for instance, when you're having your conference or chess clubs? If you explain that a bit.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it started off, 2020 happened, and all the lockdowns were going on, and there was the stand in the park movement. So people going to the parks, that sort of stuff. So I went along, and there's a lot of panicking people there. And so I thought I'd try and explain to them how the system actually works, and there's nothing to worry about. And what I found is that it's quite strange, because everyone would stop talking and then they would circle around me and just listen to what I had to say. And I explained how contracts work, legal titles, corporations, all this sort of stuff. And then one day someone says, well, do you do talks? Do you do speaking events? Anything like that? I says, well, not really. But we managed to find a pub. There was a landlord who was in part of the freedom movement, and he offered to use a room. So we said, okay, we'll use the room there. So I thought, oh, better put a PowerPoint together. So I'm going to talk in front of like a few people. Anyway, we blew the doors off the place. There's like 250 people turned up to this pub. And they were standing outside, and we had to put speakers outside. And I'm doing this PowerPoint presentation explaining how the system works. And I was handing out leaflets and handouts explaining it all. And it just exploded. I mean, the amount of people that come up to me and says, oh, how can I help? I want to get involved. And I says, okay, let's work on this. So eventually, we did our first conference 3 years ago, and it was called Train the Trainer. And it was for people who could turn up who wanted to learn this stuff and then help others to understand it and set up what we call workshops. And now Carl runs the workshops for us. And we have now got workshop in other countries now. So we've got loads of work. I don't even know how many.
Yeah, which countries?
Yeah, so we've got 2 in Canada. We've got one just open up in Athens, and 2 in New Zealand. But we've also got what we call like lone nights as well, where there are sovereigns that believe they're on their own. They could be in a rural location like a village or a town or a city. But what you may have seen on our website is there's a certain section on our website where we've got our workshops, where people go to learn the information we've got our chess clubs, where you can do more than just learn. You can start to use paperwork and kind of defend your rights. And then you've got the lone knights, which are again individuals that are scattered all over the planet, where they say, look, I'm a sovereign. We get their first name, their email address to go onto the website, and we've got like a Google Maps as well. So if someone's in, for example, Southampton, and they're like, well, I want to reach out to other sovereigns, we can go to Southampton. We've got a guy in Southampton already, and then they can then communicate. They can grow their network, and we can then grow that into a workshop or another chess club. So we've got about 24 workshops and chess clubs now globally, and more lone nights springing up all over the place.
And yeah, that chess club. So what does that? When you say put it into practice, what does that actually? Is that sort of doing more interactions?
Yeah, well, chess club. It was. We just called it chess club because we didn't know what to do. The way it worked out is I did my workshops, and it was done on a Thursday evening. So everyone could come along, and I would do a PowerPoint on protecting your signature, how to do contracts, how warrants work, how courts work, this sort of stuff. Just the general legal, lawful, and the difference between lawful and legal. Most people don't know the difference. So I was doing that, but then some people were saying, oh, I need help with this paperwork. So we set up on a Sunday, which was like open surgery. People could come down and I could talk to them, have a look at their paperwork and give them some pointers. So we just called that a chess club. So the idea of a chess club is people in your areas, we're trying to set up a local chess club. So if you've got a problem, you've got something wrong, you've got something wrong with a contract, it could be your boss, it could be a parking ticket, whatever it is, you're not alone anymore. You can go along to these weekly chess clubs, sit down with other people, share information and work together, so then you can actually defend yourself and get rid of that issue, whatever it is. So that's what the chess club is. Workshops, like Carl says, is education. We do PowerPoints. Chess club, working together, solve problems. And lone nights is if you can't reach a workshop or a chess club, you're in a rural area, something like that.
And so it sounds like you said 24 places. I mean, how many people have sort of signed up to this? And
Oh, wow.
How much is it growing?
It's growing, I think, what, would you say we're over 20,000 members now?
Yeah,
Something like that.
With the workshop and chess clubs, they have different numbers turning up each week.
Yeah.
And as it's word of mouth, friends chat and they bring more people along, then it grows real quick. So it's really difficult for us to sort of say how many men and women are going to each chess club and each workshop unless we go ourselves. But in terms of people being members of the Sovereign Project, then we can
do they subscribe as well? I don't know how it works.
It is a membership, and it's free.
Yeah.
One of the things with the Sovereign Project, this is one of the, when I set this up, one of the rules that I set up is that the membership will always be free and the information will always be free. We will not charge for information. We will not say, before we give you this information, you have to pay us. Yeah. Right? We won't do that. I've written some books, but those chapters of those books are free to download on the website. Anyone can join, free membership. So that's one of the things we did right at the beginning. I said, information should always be free. So yes.
Great. And that's very much some. I mean, that's really big. 20,000 members. It's a real thing. There are other groups as well. Do you guys interact with? I mean,
oh yes.
Yeah. Who are the ones you sort of?
Oh wow! I can mention some good. I know everyone now in the. I call it the SFT movement, which is the Sovereign Freedom and Truth Movement. SFT movement. Make it simple. thousands and thousands of people all over the world.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to people all over the world, and I know lots of people. I can give you some names of some good people that I trust, and I believe they put out some good information. Peter Wilson's very good. Kalispa, she's really good. So they put out some good information. There are organisations that we tend to stay away from. I'm not going to mention their names here because we don't do that sort of thing. We just say, look, that's not for us. Do your thing.
Fair enough. Don't name them, but why do you still? What do they do that you don't agree with?
Right. Well, there are some groups out there. Unfortunately, there are a lot of scammers in this SFT movement. All right, they're making fake promises. People get pulled in because they don't know enough, and they end up paying out a lot of money. So one of the scams out there would be pay us £3,000 and we will get rid of your mortgage for you.
Yeah.
Okay, not mentioning any names.
Just off the record, but Matrix.
Is that off the record?
No,
Switch the cameras off.
I promise you that bit's off the record.
That's-
Just so I know. Well, yeah, okay, got it.
You're absolutely right. Okay. So unfortunately, because people don't know any better, they fall foul of this trap. And see, a lot of people are very desperate because you've got prices going up, the petrol's going up, you know, utility, all this is going up, food is going up. You've got hyperinflation kicking in, you know, because the currency is collapsing. Inflation's running at 20%. People can't afford their mortgages anyway. So they fall foul of this. They think it's a quick fix. There are no quick fixes within the sovereign movement. You've got to learn this stuff. So they'll contact these groups and say, well, I don't even have the £3,000 or in some cases £7,000. So then these groups will say, don't worry, max your credit cards out and we'll get rid of your credit card debts as well. And of course, they fall foul of the system, they do it, and then they take the money and they never inform them again. We've heard lots of members of the Sovereign Project and the Sovereign Fraternity are victims of those sort of scams.
Those scams, does that give the whole movement a bad name?
It really does. Yeah. You're absolutely right, Tom. That's why we do not associate ourselves with any of that. If any group out there is saying you have to pay us first before we carry out a service, I'd walk away and say I'm not going to do that. There's also scammers out there that will say things like pay us money and then we will give you a deed of sovereignty and now you're sovereign. And the true sovereign would know that's a complete scam because you can't get a piece of paper and now you're sovereign. It doesn't work that way. It comes from here. It's my authority. My authority says I am sovereign. It comes from yourself. This is what we teach at the Sovereign Project. You can't get a piece of paper. So yes, there's a lot of scammers out there, but we stay away from them.